Hello there again. Dr. Gene Mesco coming to you from Mostly Hairless Apes and the Evolving Church of Science, talking about the Bible. I've been working my way through the suggestions, or almost halfway through. This is the fifth suggestion from the Bible, and it's take care of home. Everybody needs a home. We're evolving social primates. Deal with it. And because we're evolving social primates, we need to have at least some territory that we can call home. And when we do that, we can have some stability. We can have time to think, which means we can be civilized. So there's the cut right there. Home is freaking essential because we have to sleep. Until we figure that one out, we can't be awake all the time. You can't be on guard duty all the time. We have to have security and safety. That's why we form social units. It's a basic biological question. Why should we group together? Because it's better to work in a group than by yourself. It's not that hard to figure out the benefits involved in having a group. Now, of course, then the issue becomes the rules, and that's doing good and maximizing probabilities and understanding your environment, all the other stuff we've talked about with the Bible. But this is another suggestion just to remind us that you got to have an anchor. You got to have stability somewhere. You got to be able to not be totally vertical. You got to have some horizontal. The priest told me that one. Kingsley and Breezy. I don't know if they're still out there, but Kingsley was a priest that I knew, an Episcopalian priest, and he said his model for a relationship was the cross. Somebody's got to do growth. You got to have vertical. Somebody's got to do stability. You got to have in the horizontal. And I thought that's a profound simplicity of a relationship. I mean, my mother told me, going off to graduate school, that marriage isn't 50-50, it's 75-75. If you just do the minimum, it's not going to work. I could get 100% on my own. Why do I need you? But if I can get 150%, and I don't have to work 100%, if I just have to put out 75% effort, and me and my partner can get 150% of the results, that is way cool. That's amazing math. Because you got to think about what's being produced. And if I can cut back from maximal effort, but still do more than the minimum, then I have balance, and I have stability, and I have growth, I have an advantage, I have more resources, yay! And I have more opportunities then. Because there's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I got to maintain my life, I want to have freedom to do stuff, and pursue my happiness, whatever I think I need to stand up for, but I got to have resources to do that. And if I spend all my time just getting resources for me, then I'm not going to have time to do what I want. I'm just going to tread water. And that's the essence of doing good. Now, the real trick here is to appreciate the scale of home. Because we could talk about Mother Earth. We could go all the way up to the biosphere and talk about our home planet. We don't, as far as I know, there's no aliens planning to invade, but there might be. And at some point, we might want to form a planetary defense. That would be not a bad idea. If we're going to have that, I can see that as a reasonable investment in the far future. But we can't even stop arguing with each other. So we'll save the planetary defense force and the space cadets for later. I wouldn't mind having Starfleet. But first, we got to solve our problems here. We got to figure out how to stabilize life on Earth and take care of the home that is Mother Earth. Gaia, whatever you want to call her. But we got to take care of the planet, figure out how the ecosystems work, how the biospheres change, how the ecosystems flow with energy and matter, and all those biogeochemical cycles. And once we understand the stability and we can optimize maintaining species and we can start gardening the Earth, which is what we're doing anyway, we're just doing a crappy job of it. You can't even get people to tarp their garbage loads here in North Georgia, where I live. You should get on that, Margie. But all right, so take care of home. That's the fifth suggestion from the Bible, and it starts at home. As you're growing up, as you become conscious, and you're understanding your environment, and you realize what people call good and what they call bad, what's good and evil, right and wrong, and you follow along. and you figure stuff out. You start figuring stuff out, and you start maximizing probabilities in your favor. You say, all right, yeah, I'm going to do this. This is a better choice for me. This is who I am. I'm good at this. I'm not good at this, but I like this, so I'm going to keep working at it. Or I'm good at this, so I'm going to keep doing that. Or people want me to do this. However that works. But at some point, you stand up for something. At some point, you stand up and say, I think this is important. But what makes that possible is to maintain the investment in home. It's do your part to maintain a stable domestic environment. And you can't take care of the planet or anybody else if you're not taking care of yourself. You got to put your oxygen mask on first before you help anybody else. It's pretty basic. And so you got to take care of home. You got to stabilize your life. Take care of those people around you. Realize who are your dependents, who are you taking care of. If you get to adulthood, you're usually taking care of somebody. That's one of the challenges. That's the biggest difference between parents. Screw all the man, woman, gay, straight, black, white crap we have. Biggest difference is adults and children. Adults and responsible people. Parents and non-parent. People who take responsibility and people who don't. That's the cutoff right there. That's what we're going to have eventually is the professional revolution. That's how we're going to get rid of rich people. Because rich people are fluff too. They've earned enough money that they don't do anything anymore. Unless you're doing something. If you're a rich person and you're actually doing stuff, you're using your resources to change the world in a way that I can approve of, then I'll support you. Or if not, I'll oppose you. But that's the whole point. We're all going to be doing stuff in the world. We're all making our way. We're all having our own decisions, what's good, and we're standing up for stuff. But the big difference is who's being taken care of, who's not. That's the basic math. There's the basic logic and reason for doubling the minimum wage, whatever it is. Think about your life. We shouldn't be operating on weeks or quarters or years. We should be operating on lifetimes. When we calculate the economy for our society, our civilization, is a really basic question to ask. Who are the people involved? And all the people involved are going to have a certain demographic. They're going to be distributed over ages and developmental stages. And on average, half of every human might be in a non-productive phase relative to the economy and functioning society. Because what's the economy say? The economy says you got to produce something. You're either producing resources by producing a product or providing a service, or you're taking up those services and those products. So you're either a plus or a minus on the balance sheet. That's the basic economic question for everybody. And professionals generate value. Professionals have enough skill, people who work, and if you have a specialized skill or knowledge and you can sell that, you can sell it for more than market value if you're any good. That's the art of the deal. That's one thing the Terrible Tangerine nailed. It's all about the deals. If we're going to have a capitalist economy, we're going to say, yeah, competition's a good thing. And the competition should only be in the economic realm. Competition shouldn't be in the fucking physical realm, other than athletics. Why the hell are we blowing each other up? You have to make rules, and you say, all right, that's your property, this is our property. And we've got that settled. I'm not going to go take it by force. But if you want to sell it, or if I have a developmental idea, then we could work with that. And make a deal, maybe. And hopefully it's a win-win. But not always. Sometimes it's a win-lose, whatever. That's the competition. That's what we'll figure out. That's what the economy's for, to allow us to sort out the markets. But we want to do that in a situation with rules. That's the whole point. If I all know the rules, then we can play the game. That's what makes chess fun. That's what makes football fun. That's what makes baseball fun. If the rules are, but if you change the rules, if the rules don't matter because somebody's got more money, then it's not any fun anymore. Because then it's not about who wins. It's just about who's figured out how to twerk the system. Who's figured out how to tweak the system. Twerking is something else. But if we're tweaking, if you can compete, then you've got it working out. But that's the whole point. That's life. That's what it should be. We should get up every day ready to face the world and face challenges and go out there and compete. At least for the work week, whatever that is. 5 days, 4 days, however much you feel you need to compete to generate resources. And then you can go recreate. You can go recreate yourself with recreation. Because then you can take the weekend And that's the cycle of life. That's a beautiful thing when it works. That's what we want to be great again. People don't want to have to worry about all this international crap. People want to go to their job, go to a job, make enough money to have the life that they want. They want to be able to retire at some point. They want to take care. They don't want to go broke because of health care. They want to be able to hop in the car or on the train or on a bike and just go do whatever they want. That's fun. But no, what do we have? We have this uber competition that doesn't even allow people to get homes. That's what we have to guarantee. That's what we have to build a society that everybody has to. It shouldn't be a game to play healthcare payments with insurance. Oh my God, if you're an American and you've dealt with our healthcare system, our educational system, or our tax system, it's a freaking game. There are all these rules and regulations, and people are playing these games, and it becomes this ridiculous event because people have to make money off of it. That's the trick. That's taking care of home. Home needs to be separate from the economy. Home should be something that you just have that's stabilized. Everybody should have a place that's whoever's in your home, who's ever in your family. We'll talk about Grand Falloons later, how I see them at least, not Vonnegut's version. But the idea of a legal social entity that is the family, that provides for people that are the dependents. Because that's what we all do. That's the responsibility of life. You grow up and you first spend the first 20 years of your life being a dependent. You got to learn things. It takes a long time to grow a functional human. And then we'd all like some time at the end, too, or in between. We'd like some recreational time. We'd like some golden years at the end to be able to go out and do stuff and enjoy ourselves. Everybody would like that. And what do you need to do that? Well, you need to put in time. And right now, it should be. I'm lucky enough, or designed well enough to have the residue of a retirement, that everybody should split it down the middle, about half and half, if you think about it. Average life expectancy right now for a human in the developed countries like America is about 80 years. Well, if I spend 20 years developing and go to work when I'm 18 or 20, whatever, if you go to college, but then you hit 60, 65, you get to retire. And hopefully you live to be 80. It's not quite half and half. I think half and half would be a good goal to shoot for, though. That I work half my life, and I get to develop during the first quarter, and then I get to just have fun the last quarter. That's a pretty good split in my book. We'll talk about euthanasia later as an option. But the idea of having a stable home environment where your bills are paid, you have enough food, medical care is reasonable, or as good as can be. Ideally, what's a state of the art would be ideal. And we could have that. We could easily have that. But we don't. We don't have it. Because what do we have? We have a society. We live in a civilization in America right now that's dominated by the economic factors. And that's been the rule since the frickin' 80s. What they've said is the economy, because that's really what the Cold War was about. It was about socialized economies, communist economies, versus capitalist, free market economies. And what they said was, yeah, we want to have private ownership, but that should supersede everything else. And that's what happened in the 80s. That's what Ronnie did. That's what the whole growth out of the 80s. The Soviet Union finally fell apart. It's because we spent them under the table. Everybody said, oh, capitalism's great. We've got more resources. We got more money. And subsequently, we can make the rules. Because we have more money, we can drive more resources, and we can change the path of evolution, which is how the game's played. Except, what's the end point of that? That's the trick from an evolutionary perspective. That's what the Bible teaches us, is step back, take a look at it from evolution. So if you select for the people with the most money, without any other qualifications, what do you get? You get really greedy people. You get really greedy, obnoxious people who think only certain levels of people are worth keeping around, whatever their perspective is. And that's not the society that I want to live in. I'd rather live in a little more diverse society that spreads the wealth a little more around. That people aren't fighting for every freaking penny. Because that's the problem right now. Because there's an endemic disadvantage. Do we need to go over racial disparities again? And think about Think about 1865. There you go. Put yourself in 1865 if you have enough brain power and enough education to appreciate that. Well, that's the end of the Civil War. So the rest of the world was industrializing. They were industrializing all through the 1800s. Slavery was going away. The English realized 1830, they passed the Abolition Act, 1835, I think. Got rid of it in most places because they realized paid labor was a better deal than slave labor. But the South held on to it. They'd made a huge investment, they had all this human capital, and it was a financial decision, at least partly, to say, no, 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 we're going to keep slave labor on the farms. And they didn't want to invest in all the machinery that took in over north. And that was probably partly a climate decision. You had different pressures with the environment. You could have slaves sleep out in quarters in the South. You didn't need to have closed-in houses and warm clothes and provide fire and heat like you did up north. Anyway, the economy shifted to machines, happened globally. The South held on. Yeah, we've had slavery for frickin' millennia. And you look at any society in history, Romans, Chinese, all the way back, they all had slaves. It's in the Bible. Not the Bible, but in the Bible. They talk about how to treat your slaves in the Quran. But no, we don't want that. We want to use our technology, what we've evolved into, this technological species. Let everybody have a chance to get out to the market. But that means we have to train people. We have to give them enough nutrition. We have to give them enough health care. And say, all right, how are you going to compete? How are you going to discover new knowledge? Are you going to be a scientist and discover new knowledge? Are you going to be an artist and create new beauty? Are you going to do one of the multiple jobs that require maintenance in our society? Because that's a huge part of life. And all of those things need to happen. We need to stabilize. We need to grow. We need to keep the systems in place. We need to replace things, make new roads, build new buildings, new schools. We need to have teachers. We need to have scientists and artists so that we can figure out how to do things better. That's what science and art teach us. What's truthful and what's beautiful. How do things work? What we don't need is frickin' cryptocurrency. We don't need people playing the market. We don't need gambling. It's nice to have, but all of those things are recreational. They're just, we should take care of the essentials first. We should take care of home, which means we should structure our economy so we tax. Nobody talks about Make America Great Again back in the 50s. What was it like? We had a 70% tax rate on the rich. The top tax rate was over 70%. And nobody griped about it. People were making money hand over fist. But what happened is the rest of the world caught up. We only had about a 20-year run after World War II where we were the big industrial power. And the generation that grew up in that era got greedy. They realized, wow. And what was the first smack of reality was the Arab oil embargo, 73. Where the OPEC countries got organized and said, wait a minute, everything runs on oil. We've moved into this mechanized world. We got rid of slavery. We've said we're going to have democracy. Everybody gets to vote. That means the workers want to get paid. If we have democracy, that means we have things like unions. And we have things where people get to vote in the workplace. And the people who own things didn't like that. They realized in the 70s that they had to address a fundamental problem. That home, for them, in their mansions and manors, where they were bringing in inordinate amounts of wealth, was going to continually decrease as workers said, wait a minute, you're taking away way more than you're worth just because you say you own this. We're doing all the work. We want vacation. We want retirement. We want benefits. So what did they set about in the 70s? Go back to the Powell Memo, go back to stock in the Supreme Court, go back to the Soviet Union falling apart. And what you'll get is a sequence all the way through Thatcher and Reagan and all of the fun stuff, all the way through Clinton in the 90s and neoliberalism. This idea that the economy is the most important thing, and we have to keep the economy running. And the way we keep the economy running is we let the rich people run business. Well, how's that worked for us? Since the 70s, we've gone from over a majority of workers having union representation to basically less than 20%. I think it's down under 10% now. Workers have union representation. If you don't have union representation, that means you got to take the boss on by yourself and argue for whatever meager pay you can get. Because they can just fire you without cause. They can say, nope, you're out. You want retirement? You want benefits? I'll find somebody who'll work cheaper. We'll take the factories to frickin' Guatemala, to China, and we'll get people to work for slave wages. They're not going to pay you benefits. We're not going to pay you retirement. Screw all that. That means I make less profit. That's where we are now. That's what we've been doing for the last 50 years. Because we had a war that said we're going to get rid of the royals. Because that was the whole process of of the 20th century. The industrial age equalized labor. It gave everybody. We introduced technology. Science came along. We had all this mass media, and now all of a sudden we can realize how shitty things were in a variety of places. And we said, well, how do we fix it? Well, we distribute the wealth more. We get some of it going down to the workers because they're actually doing the fucking work. And no, the rich people didn't like that. So we got rid of all the landed aristocracy. We got rid of the royals. That's who got thrown out in World War One. And then the dictators tried to step up. Hitler, Mussolini, the Tojo in Japan, all these guys said, oh, and then we took them down. And we said, oh, democracy is great. But democracy is only as good as the people running it. And because we got fat and happy over 20 years, and we let people throw in scare tactics, which is what they've been doing for 50 years now, it's scaring us with all these other people because we keep having to have wars. Now they've realized we have to keep having wars. We had to go to Vietnam. We had to fight the Arabs. We had to deal with the Muslims. We had to piss all these other people off. And we could have all of these stupid threats that aren't really threats. Talk to the people who are holding the guns, and they'll say, what do they want? They just want a home. Just take care of home. They just want to have a home with a job and food and schools and medical care and basic civilized conditions. But we can't have that because rich people keep stirring the pot because that's the only way they can keep us from looking at them closely and saying, wait, you make how much fucking money? How many billions of dollars have you skimmed off the top of this for some ridiculous industry? How much money is enough? How much money is enough? That's the goddamn question to ask. And that's part of taking care of home is saying we gotta take care of development. We gotta take care of old people when they get sick because it's what anybody wants. I want to have good development myself. Do unto others. It's a really basic philosophy. That's take care of home. Provide a home that's a little bit better, and that should be the goal. Provide a home for everybody that you help take care of that's a little better than the one you had, and keep improving it. That's what we should be doing. We should be doing it at the domestic level for housing. We should be doing it at the local level for our villages and cities and towns. We should be doing it at the national level. We should be doing it at the global level. We should be taking care of things, making sure that animals don't go extinct, that we're not polluting the environment, and we're not killing each other for stupid reasons, because leaders get us into these stupid wars where they can excite fear and they can sell more weapons and invest in those things and take money that should be spent on building a better world. We all should just calm down. We should all unplug from the media, turn off your devices, put some music on, don't talk to your neighbors, and say, what's the real problem here? What's the real problems that we're dealing with? We don't have clean water. We have crappy produce available. We don't have good cars. We don't have good transportation. Let's talk about those questions. Who the fuck cares if somebody's sleeping with somebody else? If it's not anybody in your circle, then it's just entertainment. It's theater. And we should stop bitching about it. And if anybody wants to invoke the religious crap, bring the first person to bring proof of any existence of any God gets to argue from religion. If not, show us the data, show us the facts, and take care of home. Taking care of home means being real, just facing the world around us and say, let's deal with real problems, not this international crap that the rich people throw at us. And then we could take care of home, and we could go out and back and sit in the hammock and have a lemonade and really enjoy ourselves. Take care of home.